Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supergirl. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we had Andrea overstepping her boundaries, and I completely forgot about it last episode, but she did steal that journal from Lex, and she published it. And now it's like, oh, he has a love letter. It's basically poems and love letters about Nixley, and now the public knows that, and people are ridiculing him, which William gets super upset by when he confronts, because William had already found out about this because Otis had let him know, but then the question then becomes like, well, how do we know Otis isn't a setup by Lex? It's like, either way, we're tracking the Lexo suits and everything, because it turns out that's what he's planning. He's planning on making an army of Lexo suits for Nixley. Well, ultimately, when it comes down to it, William was super upset with Andrea for doing what she did, because for him it's like, now you're you use my byline to post that. Now it's like you're acting like this is some gossip rag when we're supposed to be doing hard-hitting news. That's always been the complicated thing of, like, it's been that way since season 5 of Supergirl, when Andrea took over Catco. Is that it was always about the numbers and everything. Like, her main thing going forward was like, even this season was like, right, we're like number 8, we need to be number 1 again. It's like we've fallen down the rankings. Like, Catco used to be big time, now we've kind of fallen behind. So she became so obsessed with that being number 1. So she figured, like, for her, it's like, I'm willing to do whatever. Like, even if it's like, do something that's like put out that's like, it's not a good thing, because one, Lex is the vengeful person he is, and it comes back around. But also, it's like, for him, it's like, for William, it's also like, you make him seem like, oh, like all these people are taking him as a joke when they shouldn't. He's the super villain that he is. He's a terrible human being. Like, people are going to underestimate how dangerous he is, because it's like, as journalists, like, we're supposed to be publishing the truth. We're supposed to be doing stuff for the greater good. He was like, I would hope that all this power influence, you use it for the greater good, but you never did anything but for yourself. Like, it's about, as journalists, we're supposed to stand for the truth. What do you stand for? Andrea, you're doing what you've done shows that you stand for nothing. And in that moment, she was just like, I thought in that moment, I thought William was going to quit, but he didn't. But, Andrea even calls Lena about it later on, and like, right, am I like some monster? It's like, she's like, at the end of the day, it's like, right, I mean, it wasn't like your best decision to do that. She's like, so I am a monster. It's like, no, like, the fact is that she's just like, when it comes to it, like, we both know, like, one of your negative sides is like, you can get very, like, single-minded about things. So it is about, like, she's like, I get it. I would love take, like, the opportunity to take my brother down. Like, better than anyone. I'd jump at that opportunity, but didn't go about it the best way. But Andrea's like, yeah, but I'm doing this for, like, I had a reason for doing this. But what was that reason? Andrea stops, because it was just like, because I think even she had to stop to think, like, well, right, what was my motivation? Why did I do that? Was my motivations altruistic, or were they selfish? And it come down to it, they were selfish. I mean, but obviously there's still the conversation where, despite everything, it's like Nixley hearing all about this poetry from Lex is kind of like, well, I'm not sure she's like, I like the aspect about the burning oceans and stuff like that, but obviously for him, it's all about truth. It is him being honest about, how he feels, because even Lena was like, right, because after they learned from Brainy, like, yeah, they became a power couple, and it's just like, right, even Lena is like, I never thought I'd ever hear my brother being in love with someone that wasn't himself. Brainy learned other things, but we'll get to that in a second. But ultimately, they end up tracking down the truth totem next, and Lex was trying to tell her, like, it's just like, I need you to believe in yourself. The you that, it's like, when everyone else thought your dad was somewhere else, you knew exactly where he would be, because, like, you're the most powerful when you are yourself, when you believe in yourself. And just when that happens, the truth totem pops up, and her truth was about admitting truth within herself. It's like, right, she's scared. A little bit of that truth was being scared that her that she's a lot more like her father than she's willing to admit. Also, another aspect of the truth is admitting, well, there's also a part of me that still wants his approval, because at the end of the day, he is still her father, and despite everything, there's still that familial connection and everything, and just wanting his approval and his love. But at the heart of it, what she's really scared of is she doesn't want to be alone anymore. She wants to be able to know that she can trust someone without, putting her heart out there and not being betrayed and left alone, because she's been betrayed time and time again by her brother, in her mind by Kara and them. But now, she's scared the same thing will happen. But now that she was willing to speak that truth, because of the truth totem, Lex is clear about no. I'm here for you. It's inconceivable for me to ever betray you. Which in moments like that is where I start going, I don't believe him. I was like, oh man, he's all about love and everything, but part of me's like, I think he's lying. I think he's manipulating you, that I think you are a means to an end. I think, because we never really went into the ins and outs about how Nixley died in the future. It seems like it's the Super Friends, but maybe they think they're responsible, but maybe Lex was just looking for an opportunity for Nixley to get weakened, and it's like, oh, I do love you, but not as much as I love myself, so it's like, or maybe his time in the future after losing Nixley made him go you know what? I like all this power, but I need Nixley, so I do love her, but now having an opportunity to take the power for himself, I think he's going to reveal his true colors of he's in love with Nixley and stuff like that. But I think he probably manipulated and did something to make it so that everything he's saying to Nixley is the truth. At least it seems like it, but I think he's altered himself in some shape or form. I don't think... Because like I said, I brought it up last episode, I was still kind of suspicious of it, and this episode just reaffirmed it. I'm pretty sure he's going to betray her in the end. That his whole being in love with her, he would never betray her, is somehow he was able to manipulate it so that he can, he has some defense mechanism against the totems to some extent, I think. Because he does have future technology at his disposal. He also knows how things are going to play out, so things are shifting. Maybe things are playing out the way they did in the 31st century, for him to know, what went down, it's all playing out the way, so that's why he knows everything, because he probably studied the history, knowing exactly what moves the Super Friends were going to make, what moves he needs to make, so it's all, somehow he's lying to her. I just get that inkling, which I was like I said, last episode, I was like, I'm all about this, them in a relationship, because it just seems so weird, but it's yeah, Lex loves no one more than himself, everyone's a means to an end, so... Maybe he looks at Nixley as oh, I do love you. I love you for all the power that you are and the power that you're going to give me. I said that we rule together, but it's because maybe to use the All-Stone, you have to turn someone, someone has to become the body for it, which makes me wonder, is that where Esme is going to play a role? It's is it you're going to become the body for the entire totem? Someone has to, almost like the Soul Stone with the Infinity Stones, someone had to be sacrificed for it. So what if there's an epicenter for all of the stones come together? And so what if Nixley became that for Lex in the future? He needed... I don't know. That's one, but then, who became that for her? Either way, it's I bet you he's planning on doing that. He's going to have her become the All-Stone, and then he's going to take it inside. Right, you'll always be with me, and I'll always be with you, because your power is now mine, and we'll rule together. I get that inkling, but we'll see. Obviously, circling back to it, because I brought it up earlier, was the discovery that... Brainy made, that he learned what he learned from Wynn in the future, but also what he learned is that he has to come back to the future. The big brain is dying, and he has to come back and fuse with it. He has to lose his self to save them. And for him, it's he doesn't want to. It's there has to be another way, because for him, it's this is where he belongs. It's my family here. I made a family here. I have Nia here. I found love. I don't want to give it up, especially because it means not only going to the future that he'd never see Nia, he'd never be himself anymore. For the first time, he found, he became something more. All the emotions that he's feeling, he's grown. He knows what he has to do. It doesn't make it any easier, but he wants to at the very least stick around until they've dealt with Nixley and Lex. And obviously there was a conversation about speeding things up, and he was yeah, let's speed this up. And Nixley trying to tap into the dream totem, because they ended up getting that in their battle with Nixley and Lex. Luckily, she was able to grab they were able to get the dream totem at the time, but they ended up destroying her suit. So that's, unless they'd have to repair that. But I thought that was pretty, obviously, he uses nanotechnology to eat away at the suit, and she breaks through it when she uses her heat vision and shatters it completely. But I thought that was, just cinematic. I'm that looks so sick. God, I just love what the heat vision looks like now. It's so, I think that's such a cool design that they've gone with, not just this Superman and Lois, but even like Man of Steel, like that, like making it like maybe that's what lasers really look like, because most representation of the heat vision has always been red, but more recently cinematically they've made it like that bluish red, like kind of like an azure color, because like azure flames are stronger than regular flames, right? So that's the design they've kind of gone with as the series has progressed, and I think that's so I love that. You know, because I will always associate, because I know in the comics it looks more like the red. I always know like that's what it was for the animated series as well, probably older series as well. Because I think Smallville had the red as well. It wasn't like a full blown beam. It was like opaque a little bit, so you can like a little see through it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know if I ever really talked about it, but I do love that design. Because I guess that's supposed to be probably more scientifically closer to like what like heat of that scale would really look like. It'd be so hot it would be blue. Maybe that's kind of the justification. Whatever the case may be, it's just like I'd still never praise it enough of just like how awesome and how sick that looks in comparison to like the red. But tangents and all that aside, but Nia used a dream totem, and she's like, wait, why didn't you tell me about you going back to the future? He's like, I didn't want to. You know, it's like, because once he goes back, like, there is no coming back. And, you know, even the other version of himself inside is like, oh, no, like, he's run the variables of, like, how to do it, but it's like, none of them are viable options. So this is how things have to be for the sake of the future, which Nia's like, well, I'll go with you. It's like, no. My destiny is there. That's where I have to be. But your destiny is here, you know? And it's like, neither one wants to be in a world without the other one. But it's like, when this fight is over, they have to, you know, be separate. Because it's like, yeah, you always knew there was going to be, you're going to have to go back to the 31st century at some point in time. It's like heartbreaking, you know, despite everything they've been through. Like, you know, as Nia says, like, I hate the space-time continuum. Just, you know, when they're able to move past, like, get past everything that they've been through and be reunited again, just to be torn apart because of the space-time continuum. I'm hoping for kind of a spoilers. There's gonna have to be, I hope there is a way around it. But the spoilers I was referencing was like 12 Monkeys. I hope there's something of that angle, which can be sad or happy. I'd have to go back and rewatch the series finale to see, like, I'm sure you could recognize the sad elements to it, but to me, I'd focus only on the happy stuff, which I think is ironic, me being the pessimist I am. But regardless, like, I hope there is a way around it, but we'll see if there is. But a big thing in this episode too was Esme, like, you know, she was baking and a girl like made fun of like somebody made fun of what she was making. And obviously Alex and Kelly were there to come in like, no, it's okay. It's actually great. The fact is, it's better than any, like, boring old brownies anyone else is making. But Kara suggests, like, oh, maybe they get something like her glasses. Like, my glasses helped me, like, focus when I was younger. And it leads to a disagreement between her and Alex. Alex doesn't want her to ever, like, have to hide what she is. Because this is a time where it's like, yeah, like, acceptance of aliens and who they are and what they're capable of has, like... Obviously, they've been through the roller coaster of just, like, obviously, season 4 was the height of, like, the anti-alien sentiment with Agent Liberty and stuff like that, which, let's not forget, that was all Lex's manipulation in the first place. But at the end of the day, like, you know, Kara's coming from the perspective of, like, I know what it's like to have these powers and how scary it can be and how isolating it can be. Like, the fact that she talked to John about it, about how, like, you know, it's like she was so scared of using her powers and not being able to control them that she never had any friends. She kept away from people. Like, she was miserable and she just she wanted the best for Esme, you know, but Alex was right at the end of the day. Like, I am her mom. Like, you don't get to, and that's the thing. That's, like, neither side is right or wrong. Like, I mean, it's just like, Alex has every right to feel the way she does because, like, right, I'm her mom. Like, Kara, she's not your kid to raise. So it's like, you know, you can't judge someone for how they're raising their child just because you might have it. But it's also because Kara's coming from the perspective of, I have my personal experience with this and I don't want Esme to go through it. But at the end of the day, Kelly and Alex are her parents and it's their decision how they decide to raise Esme. It's like, yeah, you have the best of intentions and you just have to make that clear, which... At first, she's kind of like... She does eventually open up to Alex and apologize. With Alex is like, I'm sorry I snapped at you. But it's like, she knows what it's like to live hiding your truth. And even Kara does. It's like... But now she doesn't want Esme to ever feel like she has to hide a part of who she is. She wants her to be able to live open. Never feel like you're the other. Feel like you're just like everybody else. Yeah, you might be alien and you might have powers. But you're this sweet little girl. And that's what matters first and foremost. But also, like, don't ever deny any part of yourselves, you know? I mean, because also Kara's reasons for hiding her identity aren't the same as, you know, I mean, it's like she has to hide her identity to protect the people around her. So, you know, but she could at least still be herself as Supergirl. She has an outlet to be herself, be who she is at her truth. But I mean, at the end of the day, being Kara Danvers and Supergirl is all her. So she is able to live her truth, just not all at once. A little separately, you know. So, but it's like Esme at the very least, like, potentially won't have to go down the superhero route. But because the whole, like, aliens are a lot more accepted, it's like, yeah, like, she can just be herself without reservation, without judgment. So I think that in itself, it's kind of the messaging behind it. And, you know, ultimately it's like, you know, you're going to be a great mom. And it's like, yeah, but you're also a great sister too. So, like, they, you know, despite it, you know, their difference of opinion, but, like, they can't, it's about understanding each other and despite your differences and of opinion and stuff. So there, of course, it was never going to be anything bigger than that, but, like, you know, like, it was never going to be like, oh, like, there's no, it's like, no, of course they were going to fix things because, you know, because also, like, you know, because Kara's coming from the perspective of also, like, I know, like, you are, like, you know, because Alex is like, right, I can never, you know, I can never understand what it's like to be in your situation, but it's like, no, like you said earlier, you were there with me every step of the way, so you do know, like, you were there with me, you've helped me, you've been there, you were there for me in the past, and you've continued to be there for me all the time. So Esme's lucky to have her as a mom. It's like, I know what you've done for me, and I know you will do just as much, if not even more, for Esme, you know. So I thought that was kind of a beautiful sentiment and element to the whole thing. But obviously, there's the showdown on Mitch's ship. And I love that he's in the suit. He's like, ha, got you, Martian. I was like, whoa, can we talk about this? And John just, like, ripped. Like, for one, I love just phasing through the other armor suit and phased through it and ripped Mitch out of his. And it's like, you poor bastard. But Kara goes toe-to-toe, obviously, with Nixley and Lex, and they self-destruct the ship. Once again, sacrifice, instead of finishing off Supergirl or getting the totems, he makes sure that Nixley's okay, and they escape. And they brought Mitch along, too, and he was like, oh, thanks for not leaving me on the ship when it was ready to explode. But I love that. It's like, yeah, like, he's like, for the first time, I actually feel good. I feel like I'm free. Like, he doesn't have to be trapped in who he was anymore. The ship was kind of almost, it was. I guess you could make it the argument, as he's kind of somewhat of a zookeeper. It's like, right, I wasn't trapped. I wasn't trapping creatures to creature. I was kind of trapped in my own zoo of sorts. But he's like, I'm finally free. He's like, okay, if you're so free, go stock the fridge. He's like, you're not the boss of me. But Nick's is like, actually, he is. Go do what he says. And Mitch is almost like, oh, I thought we were fine. Things have changed now that Lex is around. It doesn't say that, but I think it's kind of implied. I thought that was kind of interesting. They ended up, at the end of the day, they have 5 of the totems. So because of what they were able to do. So, and they're all sealed away in the Fortress of Solitude. And at the same time, you have the situation with Nixley and Lex. It's like, right, your need to protect me, making sure I don't get hurt, it's like, it's kind of weak and everything, but she's also like, it was showing a sign of weakness, but also it's like, now I'm having less and less reasons not to trust you anymore. But it's like, right, just like the totem showed me, like, the true totem showed me, like, you are by my side, you're not going to betray me. He's like, of course. And now she's starting to see why her future self fell in love with him, and in that moment, they find out about where the love totem is. And it's just like, he was like, and she says like, oh, and she was like, did you know that was going to happen the moment I started to fall in love with you? He's like, no. He's like, even, I might know everything, but even I can't predict that because you're not predictable. But he has this look on his face, almost like, yes, everything's according to plan. It's like, yes, he does know because, like, we've been down this route before. Like, probably Nixley explained, I don't know, because it makes you wonder, like, how did everything, like, is it just that spiral thing of, like, this always happens, Lex comes back in time, and this is all part of that circle of things? Because it's like, how did Nixley make the All-Stone? Because he brought up the fact that he met her afterwards. But it's like, things went differently this time. So what happened this time to make things different? Well, because, like, I'm curious, because you have that whole situation with, Brainy calling the future. Part of me's like, well, with what we know about later on about how Lex hacked everything, I doubt he hacked the shit, but I'm like, you don't think he manipulated that as well? That there was, because it's like, how did she make the All-Stone the first time? Like, because it can't have all gone the same way if, like, but the Hope Stone does eventually get remade, so I guess, like, at some point she found it on her own. Just time Lex just expedited things, I guess, because he tracked it down and got it for her. Just a sign of good faith and everything. It's just, it's interesting. Like, it's just like, I'm just waiting to get the big reveal. Just like we did in season 4 about, like, oh, Lex kind of, you know, he doesn't have his theme song like Agatha, but it was Lex all along, you know? But like I'm waiting for it, like the twisted explanation of like when they, because you know that's going to come up in the next episodes of like how he like orchestrated the whole thing, like how this all planned out, how this all worked out. Because I mean we kind of got that at the end to some extent, but like just when they're like, they won at the end. They got rid of they stopped the Lexosuits. They blew up the ship. They've got most of the totems. Now it's a situation. It feels like just for now, like they were going to celebrate Alex and Kelly's engagement with a bachelorette party, and so, or just a party in general. And so, at the end of the day, like now they have something to celebrate, and they're partying. Obviously, John's like, I'm tuned to it all. So you guys go off, like just have fun. Kelly and Alex dancing, Lena joining, but obviously there's a conversation between Nia and Brainy, because it's like, yeah, he's a bit of a Debbie Downer to a certain extent, because it's like all this happiness, because of his emotions, all this happiness is actually making him sad. But for him, it's the dual side of it. The reason why he's so sad is because it means something. It proves that, like, right, this all means so much to me, that you mean so much to me if it hurts this much. So it's like, right, despite everything, it's like, do you feel my hand in your hand? Do you feel my head against your shoulder? And it's like, no matter, then like let's focus on that for now. Let's not worry about what the future holds. Like, we are here right now. Let's, and he's like, right, I'm not going to be a Debbie with the sad surname. But it's like, yeah, like no matter where he goes, Nia will always be by his side, be with him. And so it's like, right, let me show you how we dance in the 31st century. And so they get down on a dance floor as well, while William stayed behind to look after Esme. But, they're on their way, and you're just like, oh, God. And William, he doesn't tell Lex anything, but Lex is getting pissed off. He's like, right, you leaked my journal? You shouldn't have done that. But he also brings up the fact is like, yeah, I've accounted for everything. The fact is that your systems never got any results back about Esme is because I didn't want you to know until it was too late. Because the moment my sister looked into the whole Lex suit thing, I'd already and tracked us and everything. Like, yeah, there was a Trojan horse in that, and your systems got that. That's why I was able to shut down your security systems. Like, everything was planned. I know everything, and even if you survive, like, do tell your super friends, like, yeah, I've already won. I win. Like, never forget that, despite what you do. So he accounted for everything. And William had recorded this. The moment he started recording, it was like, Lex is going to kill him, and he's going to get this published. And he sends it to Andrea. He's like, this is the real story, and dies. I was like, holy, okay, was it? Because also, like, I was wondering whether there was ever going to be a Kara in him. They set that up previously, but that never, like, obviously, like, he had someone else, apparently, so that never, but that's heartbreaking and sucks that it came to, I didn't know that, but it's like, of course, like, William would sacrifice himself to be, it's like, right, to tell the truth and let the world see who Lex really is, so he sent it to Andrea. And especially, it's going to hit Andrea because it's like, right, I'm the one that stole the notebook in the first place, like, I'm the one that should be getting his wrath, but instead William suffered because I used his name with the byline, so he took it as a personal thing. That's why William didn't say anything about, like, correcting, because he knows, like, right, if I tell you the truth, you're just going to go after Andrea, like, it doesn't matter because his name was still on it, but it would have alleviated some of that wrath. I was like, oh, he still would have done what he'd done, but it gave him extra motive, and Andrea's going to beat herself up about it. So I think this is what's going to be the kick in the pants Andrea needs. Not only are they going to run this story, but also I think it's going to shift her perspective on things going forward when it comes to Catco. I think she's going to help the Super Friends in the end because she probably wants to take Lex down even more so now, so she's probably going to help because they don't know about the fact is that, like, I'm trying to remember post-crisis, not post-crisis, pre-crisis, whether they found out about her pre-crisis, didn't they? I don't remember. I think they did. Obviously, they probably don't think she had those powers post-crisis, but obviously she does. It's just been a secret in the background, but I think she's going to help them in the end. Sadly, they come back, like, once again, it's like, it's sad that while they were celebrating, this all happened, and, the Super Friends are probably going to beat themselves up about it. Like, right, but it's like, yeah, Lex accounted for everything. The whole point was, he wanted that, probably. He knew you'd be celebrating, and he wanted you to celebrate so that he could crush you even more under the weight of, yeah, we might not have all the totems, but we had the love totem, and now they have Esme. So it's like, either give us the other totems or something happens to this little girl. Because it's like, right, they can kill her and then just like wait for the love totem to constitute in some other form, you know. So it's like, right, if you don't know anything happened to this little girl, they have to hand over the other totem. So heartbreaking way for the episode to end. It's like, man, just when it seems like once again, I think that was the point, to feel victorious, just to have it all snatched away from you at the end. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. We're down to the last 2 episodes, which those last 2 episodes, the final 2 episodes of Supergirl, are airing next week back to back. So we'll get episode 19 as well as episode 20, the series finale. So I'm interested to see where the next episode takes us, but also see how they ultimately end up wrapping up Supergirl. Whether my thoughts about Lex and Nixley will end up being true, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.